Hey guys, it's Clay from Clear Critique. As a writer of not just movie reviews, but some fiction, I'm always fascinated with work that focuses on the five senses. And what better genre to explore this than horror, as it's one of the more immersive ones. But which movies really made us see, smell, taste, touch, and hear the horror? 5 films, 5 senses, here we go. Dumplings was a possibility for the taste category, as was Raw, although I wasn't a huge fan of Raw. Plus, taste in horror? How could I not go for a vampire flick? Which brings us to Interview with a Vampire. I rewatched all of the films on the list today, and I was stunned with how much the movie uses taste as a theme, specifically for distinguishing different social classes. In the first act, we receive a lecture comparing the character's victims to 3-course meals. Tom Cruise's character Lestat takes such pride in his diet he only targets the most affluent people to feast on. And in turn, drinking the blood of animals is depicted almost like military rations. The film doesn't only use it as a theme, but does a great job portraying bloodlust. When they bite and suck, the actors are putting everything into it. In this way, taste is the id, our most primal needs and desires. This makes certain characters not only more diabolical, but scary. Seeing a young Kirsten Dunst cuddle with Tom Cruise and then dive onto victims with the savagery of a shark is very entertaining, yet feels kind of sick to watch. And I have to mention how rich the blood looks in the movie. Never has being a vampire looked so unsettling and appealing all at once. And as a side note, man does Tom Cruise mop the fucking floor with the cast of Twilight. For sense of hearing, the obvious pick was A Quiet Place, which I found underwhelming. Everyone was talking about how tense it was, how quiet it was, and all I could think was, this isn't quiet at all. There's constant fucking music, and it's not even good. There's Hush, which I enjoyed but felt it didn't utilize its concept enough, so today I'm going with Don't Breathe from 2016. The story is simple. 3 of the worst thieves on planet Earth break into a blind guy's house, only to realize he's a bigger threat than they are. And since this man has the hearing and radar of a bat, the film has a lot of fun experimenting with sound. This is a very tense movie, as characters are frequently hiding within a few feet of the villain and struggle to do exactly what the title implies. Don't Breathe's use of music clinched its spot here. The score is simple, incorporating rhythmic thuds to mimic breaths and heartbeats, with the occasional violin sting. The music works in tandem with the scene, instead of distracting from it, and I think the lack of melodies is a big contributor to this. It's not a soundtrack you'd listen to on Spotify, but it does exactly what it's supposed to do. The film as a whole does a good job showing how impossible it is to be truly silent, and every breath, every whimper, every shuffle of clothing takes on added significance. When there are sudden, important sounds, the film practically stops so we can appreciate it in full. The best example is a gunshot early on. We really center on the reverberation of that sound. It's not just emotionally powerful, but shows how layered a solitary action truly is. All of this brings home the intensity on which the story is dependent. Don't Breathe's use of sound is smart, slick, and should get more credit. Narrowing down sight was surprisingly easy. Sure, you could argue literally every horror film focuses on sight, but which really used it in a groundbreaking way? What's a great example of an entire film being a potent, visual horror experience that puts you somewhere new? Well, damn, it's gotta be Mandy. From jump, watching this movie is like being placed somewhere otherworldly, even when you're in recognizable locations like forests and lakes. The light sources, lenses, smoke, and special effects create a sense of tangibility, of heaviness that one can get lost in. There are plenty of images in Mandy I can discuss that produce this almost alien atmosphere, but I want to focus on a scene where a drugged character is being hypnotized by a cult leader. The colors and lighting are already captivating, but then something happens. As the man speaks, the woman's face merges with his own. It goes in waves. Sometimes it's 50-50, other times she fades almost completely. And it's one of the most surreal experiences I've ever had with a movie. Not only am I watching 2 people literally coalesce, but in a way, I was merging with them. I lost myself. This is such a long sequence, yet I could have sat there, transfixed, for an hour. Mandy is always doing things like this. The lighting, set design, editing, and shot composition work masterfully to create this world. It's a film that never seems to run out of things to show us, and always looks amazing. Again, plenty of possibilities for this one, but with Touch, I'm going with the film May from 2002. Touch is something we crave especially when we're lonely, and since May is a rather disturbed loner, we witness all the different ways this craving can manifest. When she develops a crush on a man, it's not his face her gaze centers on, but his hands, the shape of them, how they hold objects. May becomes so obsessed that at one point she watches him sleep and then lowers her cheek onto his hand. As crazy as this is, it comes from a natural place. This desire also leads to envy, as May encounters individuals who, in her mind, are interrupting her relationships. And again, her eyes focus on the hands she can't have, but also the ears and legs of these new threats. To her, seeing them is almost like touching them, and because it's so palpable, it's too much for her to handle. At one point, she asks a friend to move her arm to block the legs of her lover. The protagonist is also a seamstress. Sewing is a tactile skill, so we get shots of fingers and fabric, which obviously adds to the touch theme, but works for the plot as well, as May debates whether making a friend is better than finding one. And through the sense of touch, we get a deep understanding of intimacy, of jealousy, of creation, and eventually, of violence. And if that ending doesn't hurt you in some way, I don't know what will. Perfume, the Story of a Murderer was the only horror film I could think of that focused so heavily on smell. I would dub smell the hardest to portray on screen, and this movie focuses all of its energy on it. An impossible goal, and Perfume nails it. I always describe the plot as an 18th century Silence of the Lambs if Buffalo Bill were the protagonist. Jean-Baptiste, brilliantly played by Ben Whishaw, has an incredible sense of smell. It's how he perceives the world, and the audience is put in his point of view. How could the film accomplish this? 2 words: visceral imagery. It's not just that the fish market is filthy, the camera closes in on the fish, the puddles, the grime. It's exaggerated in the best way, because smell is so imprecise. We need these visuals to hit hard and often. And it's not just the grotesque. In one scene, a character smells perfume and is transported to paradise. It's lovely. We feel like we're there. If a film can't literally make us smell anything without those scratch and sniffs used in Polyester or that dump Robert Rodriguez took, it has to provoke an emotional response. But let's not forget, this is a horror film. The protagonist becomes obsessed with a particular smell radiating off a woman, which ignites a ravenous desire to recreate it, by rather disturbing means. The murderous plot would have been interesting alone, but the film goes above and beyond by capturing smell through imagery, acting, and cinematography. It's ambitious as hell, and while I would love to see other horror films attempt this, it feels like too much to ask. Those are my 5 horror films for the 5 senses. I would love to see everyone else's, so comment below. Subscribe and click the bell to support the channel, check out my other horror videos, and as always, thanks for watching.